My tea's gone cold, I'm wondering why I got out of bed at all. The morning news clouds up my window and I can't see it all. And even if I could, it'd all be great, but your picture on my wall, it reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
Dear Donald, I wrote you but you still ain't calling. I left my cell, my pager, and my home phone at the bottom. I sent 2 letters back in autumn. You must not have got them. But anyway, what's up, man? How's this war with Iran going? I love you, man, I swear I do. I voted twice, wore the hat, but now you're bombing terror. Cause Bibi Netanyahu snapped his fingers like that. You said America first, now we're dying for Israel's benefit. American treasure burning up, American lives getting spent. Lindsey Graham whispering in your ear, Mark Levin screaming on the air, Laura Luma tweeting, hit him hard, I got you dancing like you don't care. I even got your face tattooed right across my chest, but every time I see the news I'm feeling more and more depressed. P.S. We should be together, MAGA forever, you and me.
Welcome everybody. This is part also of our new introduction with our friend Jason Lowe. Excellent track, which of course represents the present time. And today's show is particularly relevant because Trump has been reading a specific Bible passage, which is actually the favorite one from the proponents of the Third Temple. So, guys, the situation regarding the coming of the Antichrist is pretty inevitable at that point. Welcome, everybody. First of all, let me thank those sponsors who make possible even this extra broadcast today. Like I said on Saturday, we try to spread the shows a little bit by not doing last Wednesday because we really need your help. So thank you, Daniel Estes. Thank you, Larry Frascella. And we like to thank our sponsors who donate through GoFundMe or through Cash App with an applause, which represents also the feeling here in the studio for those people who are really still supporting the Leo Zagami show in this new edition, which celebrates 20 years of Illuminati confessions. I know it's a little bit vintage applause with many pixels, or not many pixels, but we like to applause, to give this applause to our sponsors. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And let's start this show, ladies and gentlemen. We haven't sold many books lately, but if you still haven't got The Rise and Fall of a Frankist Monster, this is definitely the book that the Epstein regime doesn't want you to read. And it's the only book, the first book, I'm not sure it's any longer the only book, because I have a lot of people who are imitating me, including some kind of a Chinese dude who finally connects the Epstein saga with the Sabbatean Frankists. But you first heard it here from Leo Lion Zagami, The Rise and Fall of a Frankist Monster, Exposing Jeffrey Epstein and the Most Powerful Jewish Sect in the World. So here we are today. We're going to also be talking during the end of the show about the sudden death of David Wilcock, which many years ago was introduced to me and was involved, unfortunately, with Benjamin Fulford in a whole thing which I might not even have the time to discuss. But unfortunately, David Wilcock took his own life, and apparently it's a mental health issue. And for that reason, we are, of course, giving our prayers to his family. But let's talk about President Trump, who has just used a Bible passage to support the Third Temple proponents and, of course, the rise of the Antichrist. President Trump, recent Bible Reading for America, reads the Bible event, which is going to last for a whole week, and it's already sparking a mixed reaction, especially after he criticized Pope Leo, as we know, and the controversial AI-generated image of himself as Jesus. This is what Trump said, which is a citation from a specific Bible verse from the Old Testament, 2 Chronicles 7:11-22. Let's see exactly what we're going to be talking about, because it's a very important and relevant passage. So here we go with Trump.
The Lord appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up heaven, that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open and my ears attent to the prayer that is made in this place.
Okay, so why is this passage so controversial? Today, on Tuesday, April 21st, actually, it was April 22nd today. So, I mean, let's say that he lectured us in advance, because then it was broadcast later on. But in any case, he read this passage, 2 Chronicles 7:11-22, which is a significant passage, often cited by Christian evangelics, and is a call, usually, for national repentance and divine blessing. But there is much more to it, because the primary context of this passage from the Old Testament is a covenantal promise to ancient Israel, a perspective emphasized in Jewish thought by both the Chabad Lubavitch movement of his beloved son-in-law Jared Kushner, as well as the more vocal proponents of the Third Temple, like the Temple Institute, just to name one, but they are probably the most prominent ones. Now, the proponents of the Third Temple use the specific passage used by Donald Trump for a reason. They use it citing verse 12, I have chosen this place for myself as a house of sacrifice, to argue that the Temple Mount is the only divinely authorized site of worship. Now, they believe this choice is eternal and cannot be transferred to any other nation or religious site. activists that want the physical reconstruction highlight, it's been destroyed. The second temple was destroyed. Let's not forget that Jesus prophesied the destruction of it. Now, there is those people who contest the fact that, we are critical of the reconstruction of the Third Temple. And we're going to discuss that too today. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show, by the way, and thank you for being here. So, first of all, we have this specific passage of the Bible, which you have seen, given by Trump in the Oval Office. Is not from the New Testament, is from the Old Testament, and is a specific passage used by proponents of the Third Temple. They use this passage, especially the Temple Institute uses it to highlight the emergency, the fact that you need to get involved, that you need to prepare, and this preparation is actually being promoted in videos. Check out this video in which we have an explanation of their obsession with building the Third Temple.
Everybody, check out this amazing video that the folks at the Temple Institute put out. This video is for all those people who think that the Third Temple is just a pipe dream. It's not real. It's not realistic. Let's be realistic. We got to be realistic. This is for those that want to be realistic about the Third Temple in Jerusalem. There's an organization called the Temple Institute, and that's what they're doing. They're being realistic about how to push it forward. They're the most realistic because the most real thing in this world is God's will. And God's will is to have his presence in Jerusalem through the Third Temple. And I think that right now, during this Tisha B'Av period, the 9th of Av, where we mourn the destruction of two temples, but we have a vision for a third one, this organization is doing something amazing. Check out this video. I'm so proud to be presenting it to you here on Yishai Fleischer TV. Check out the Temple Institute.
Okay, before going to the Temple Institute, after this introduction by a dispensationalist and evangelical Christian, let's understand also the paradox here, because the biggest supporters of Donald J. Trump are the ones involved in dispensational premillennialism. And these kind of supporters also are the ones who are saying that the Antichrist is involved in the construction of the Third Temple. So, let me be clear here. There is some theological conflicts at work, there is some compromises, and there is definitely a more political stand to the whole thing, which of course Trump is making a point with his choice of this specific passage of the Old Testament. Because, I repeat, if you are an evangelical Christian and you support Trump, who is supporting at this point rather openly the construction of the Third Temple in Jerusalem, which, of course, for those people who believe in dispensational premillennialism means the end times. So I really have some problems here in understanding. I mean, the Antichrist is believed, first of all, to arrive with some kind of peace covenant. Now, in 2020, in August 2020, the Abrahamic Accords were signed. So 6 years ago. We have only 1 year to go until the Antichrist should be able to rebuild the temple. Now, the necessary prerequisite for this is, of course, the tribulation. And that tribulation comes after 3.5 years, and it seems to be pretty visible. Now, the Antichrist known as the abomination of desolation, it's the guy who then proclaims himself to be God, a false messiah. So I don't really understand this support for the possibility of a third temple. And I'm pretty shocked by some colleagues, which I saw today. I don't want to give names out because, you know, some of them are even my friends. But to see people who define themselves as Christians saying, oh, well, I don't mind, I would like to go and hang out at the third temple. What? You're going to do what? You're going to hang out at the third temple? Okay, so we have certain branches of Judaism who are more vocal than others in the rebuilding of the third temple. We have said that paradoxically, the Christians, both the Zionist Christians, but even the non-Zionist Christians who support Trump, still believe anyway that the Antichrist will help in the construction of the third temple. Now, Tucker Carlson recently has claimed that the Chabad Lubavitch movement is behind the rebuilding of the third temple. And he's being criticized because, you know, some people said, oh, well, he's getting confused with people like the Temple Institute. However, if you read this book, you understand that both the Temple Institute, as well as Chabad, as well as this, I mean, even if the Temple Institute and Chabad are two separate entities, you know, one is for promoting research and the possible reconstruction of the temple. The other one is, as we know, a global religious outreach movement. But this assertion that by criticizing the reconstruction of the third temple, you are automatically anti-Semitic is completely and utter rubbish. Okay? It's completely and utter rubbish. Why should we support something like this? So let me understand. Trump is pointing on a specific passage. That specific passage, like I said, 2 Chronicles verses 7, 12, 22 is the passage in which a specific mention of the temple is given. And of course, within Judaism, we can also interpret it in a more spiritual way, no? As the foundational instruction regarding what they call repentance. Now, forgive me for my pronunciation. Teshuvah. It might not be the correct one. Just like the other day, Tucker Carlson said he doesn't have the correct Jewish spelling. Neither I have. Anyway, the proponents of the third temple use the passage that Trump has read. Has a centrality, this passage. A centrality. It means that it justifies their focus on preparing rituals and training rabbis, and believing that by rebuilding this temple, they will finally heal the land. In reality, if they destroy the mosques there and all that, it will be chaos, an infinite war with Islam, which has placed itself there a long time ago. Now, I explain in volume 10 of my Confessions that placing themselves there was more of a geopolitical stand than a religious one, because Muhammad was already dead and they were claiming that Muhammad somehow arrived there. And guys, we are not gonna, ignore the fact that these religions have been abused for matters that have nothing to do with religion. And Trump is one of of those people. The utilization, the use of religion for political or geopolitical matters is despicable. But let's go to the Temple Institute to understand a little bit more about this spare temple.
I'm the director of the International Department of the Temple Institute. Today our goal more than ever is to reach out to the world and to spread awareness about the Holy Temple, the potential and the beauty that it holds for the entire world. Now I'm going to introduce you to the people who make this happen.
קוראים לי עזריה אריאל, אני אחראי על המכון התורני בית הבחירה. לפני כשנתיים הגיעו ארצה 5 פרות אדומות.
Here, of course, they're talking Hebrew, so let me just clear up so you can see the subtitles.
מצאו שהן אדומות תמימות, בלי שום שערות שחורות או לבנות. כעת, אחרי שהפרות כבר פה, יש לנו עוד הרבה הכנות לעשות, למצוא את המקום המתאים, וצריך להיות מול מקום המקדש. צריך להיות עם כהן שהוא בעצמו טהור. רק בעזרת הפרה האדומה נוכל להיחלץ מהטומאה, להיות טהורים לגמרי, ונוכל לגשת למצוות של המקדש וגם תרומות ומעשרות בצורה תקינה כמו שהתורה מצווה.
אני שמשון אלבוים, ואחת הפעולות המשמעותיות שאני זוכה לעשות פה במסגרת המכון זה מה שנקרא תרגולי המקדש. אנחנו משחזרים מחדש את העבודה של בית המקדש בחגים. אנחנו זוכים לעשות אותם היום ממש למרגלות הר הבית, ובאמת יוצאים מפה עם דרישת מקדש בלב, וזה התרומה הגדולה של מכון המקדש לבניין המקדש.
שמי אברהם כהנא, אני בעצמי כהן, רכשתי סט של בגדי כהונה כדי שנוכל להיות מוכנים לבית המקדש. אנחנו עושים תרגולים מדי חג שמתקרב אלינו, אם זה קורבן פסח, ואם זה סוכות, אם זה ניסוך המים, וגם אנחנו...
Here is the priestly class, the Cohen class that talks, because there is a priestly class when you start celebrating again the sacrifices that are supposed to be done in the fair temple, which of course also include the legendary red fiver.
אנחנו מתכוננים, כשנהיה מוכנים, להתחיל לעבוד בבית המקדש.
שמי מנחם רוזנטל, הצטרפתי פה למכון לקדם יוזמות ופרויקטים חדשים, להקים את שירת הלוויים. העניין הזה נקום ונפעל למען כינון בית המקדש. לאסוף לוויים שבאים מכל קצוות הארץ, מהצפון עד הדרום, וללמוד ולשיר. זה לקום ולעשות מעשה שהם באמת מתכוננים לעמוד על הדוכן, לעמוד ולשרת.
My name is Rafaela. One of the exciting projects in the making now is publishing a new book in English about the meaning behind the services in the Holy Temple. We go into a chapter of the vessels of the Holy Temple. We speak about the daily service, the offerings in the Holy Temple. Every offering has a different message that God is speaking to us through this offering, and we are speaking to Him. This book has tremendous significance for the people of Israel and for the whole world.
שלום, לי קוראים יהושע פרידמן. לפני מספר שנים מכון המקדש החליט להקים ישיבה גבוהה. המיוחד בישיבה שלנו שאנחנו לומדים גם את סדר קודשים וטהרות, כאשר הלימוד הוא מיוחד בכך שלומדים להלכה. כלומר, כל נושא שלומדים, אז יש דגש רב איך הדברים צריכים להיעשות בפועל ממש, מתוך ראייה שאנחנו אוטוטו בעזרת השם הולכים לקראת בניין המקדש.
Shalom, my name is Nathan Tzvi Brin. I'm a student in a Talmud at the Yeshivat HaMikdash. What's special about Yeshivat HaMikdash is that we learn really in order to do. My Rebbe is Rabbi Yeshua Friedman, and he drives us to think in a Geula mindset. We know that we have to mitkadem as much as we can to fulfill the mitzvahs that we're learning. We learn exactly those sugyas and practice them as if we're doing them, so that when the opportunity comes to really do it, we're ready to do it.
לי קוראים יצהר שריד, אני לומד בישיבת המקדש. בישיבה אנחנו עוסקים בלימוד קודשים וטהרות, דברים שקשורים לבית המקדש ולחיים בזמן הגאולה. זה סדר שמדבר על הלב של עם ישראל, על המקדש, שהוא זה שמזרים את הקדושה לתוך העולם. החזון שלי זה שבית המקדש שלנו יהיה מאות בחורים ואברכים ששוקדים יומם ולילה לפתח את התורה הענקית של בית המקדש, שבעזרת השם יביא לבניין המקדש במהרה, זה כמובן החזון של כולנו.
My name is Samara Hendrickson. I am the content manager for the...
Oh my God, I hope she's not the Shekinah. Sorry for that, guys. Hope you don't get offended down there in Israel, where I have a lot of people who follow me. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show. The presence of the Shekinah is also in verse 16 of that passage that Trump read. You know, my eyes and my heart will be there perpetually. Of course, I've explained that the Shekinah can also be interpreted in various ways. Serpentine and Frankist even interpreted in a most heretical way, whereby you had the daughter of Jacob Frank, Eve, or more recently, Ghislaine Maxwell as the Shekinah. Then we have this lady here who is the manager of the Temple Institute. She's the content manager. Okay.
The online global community of the Temple Institute. Our department is responsible for the Holy Temple teachings that we put on our social media platforms. So the teachings are about the Holy Temple, even the minutest details in regards to the work that was done in the Holy Temple. Our mission is to reach everybody around the world and create one strong global community who are interested in learning about the importance of the Holy Temple.
שמי גלעד רוטשטיין, אני מנהל מכון המקדש. החזון שלנו במכון הוא להתקדם לקראת בניין בית המקדש במהרה בימינו. עכשיו משימתנו היא לקיים את הציווי האלוקי ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם, ובשביל לקיים את הנבואה ואת האמירה של הקדוש ברוך הוא ש"כי ביתי בתפילה יקרא לכל העמים". אנו רואים כבר היום שינוי גדול בתודעה הלאומית וברצון הלאומי להתקדם למקדש. חייבים לבצע את המשימה בכל הכוח ולהתקדם לבניין הבית במהרה בימינו.
שמי ישראל אריאל, לפני 57 שנה זכינו להיכנס יחד עם הצנחנים שכבשו את הר הבית ומקום המקדש. שם שרו, אמרו הלל, הייתה שמחה עצומה שהקיפה למעשה את כל כדור הארץ. עם ישראל זכה לנס הגדול לחזור למקום המקדש אחרי 2000 שנה. אנחנו יודעים את המציאות כרגע, זאת המשימה, העם היהודי חייב לחזור למקדש, ורק כשעם ישראל יחזור לבית המקדש, נזכה גם לשלום.
Okay, so this is their take on how they're preparing. And as I explained, there has been a lot of criticism towards Tucker Carlson, who, by the way, Tucker Carlson, guys, has also apologized in the last 24 hours. It's been all over the news. Tucker Carlson that apologized for having, of course, pushed Donald Trump. Now, I know there is still a lot of you who are not totally convinced about the intentions of Tucker Carlson. But I have been saying this for a lot longer than Tucker Carlson. And at least since I started to promote this book, I understood even further that the Trump regime is in the hands of what we can call the Epstein regime. Ghislaine is the head priestess. If you read this book, you will discover all the details of what contemporary Sabbatean Frankists are involved in. And I want to also show here a series of articles which portray Tucker, who has at least apologized. Of course, the leftists say, oh, it's too late, too little, too late. No, I think that if we are real Christians, it's never too late to be sorry. And he is tormented for his past support to Trump. And I totally agree with him. We should all be tormented, but like we teach, at least in the Catholic faith, we have mea culpa, mea grandissima culpa. So it's about sinning and acknowledging our sins. And we have supported somebody who might not be the ultimate Antichrist, because that's probably Jared Kushner or Prince William. But this is relevant, guys. What Tucker Carlson has said regarding the construction of the Third Temple is very relevant.
IDF soldier, apparently an American by his accent, describing why he's at war. Watch this. They call this operation the Swords of Iron. But what are we really fighting for? We're fighting for the right of the Jewish people to exist, be Jewish, practice their religion, and be free. And one day our true leader will come and we'll be united as a whole Jewish nation so we can rebuild the Beit HaMikdash.
Beit HaMikdash, probably mispronouncing it. That's the Hebrew term for the temple, the third temple. We are doing this so we can rebuild the temple. Now you'll notice he's pulling off patches on Velcro on his IDF uniform. These are not civilian clothes. This is the uniform of the government of Israel, of its military. And he has patches on that uniform, one of which is a symbol of the temple, the third temple. So it just couldn't be clearer. Why are we doing this? To rebuild the third temple. Now, if you think we're just cherry picking this off the internet, one guy wearing an unauthorized temple patch, paid for, by the way, a uniform paid by us, armaments paid for by us, the U.S. taxpayer pays for all this stuff one way or another. The U.S. taxpayer pays for the military of Israel. Boy, does it. If you think we're being unfair and just like found one guy, well, here's a bunch of guys. It took us about 2 minutes on the internet to find this today. Here is a selection of IDF soldiers. Let's put it on the screen. There you go. And all of them have the same patch. Look familiar. Look carefully at that. What is that? That's the temple. That is the third temple. Now we'll get to in a minute about how this might actually happen and what it would mean for the rest of the world. And just to be clear, these are conversations that most Americans, certainly me included, never wanted to have. Everybody's religious beliefs, sincere religious beliefs, when held up to the light of the rational world, to the man-made world, seem a little spooky and crazy, which is one of the reasons that in the culture some of us grew up in, we don't talk about them in public because they're personal. They're the most personal part of a person. So it is without judgment, by the way, that we're airing this, okay? Just describing it because it is significant to the future of the world, to the future of this war, and to our future as Americans. So how exactly did the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, a military that the U.S. taxpayer pays for, that lots of wealthy Americans send money to friends of the IDF, how did all these guys wind up wearing patches suggesting the point of this war was the destruction of one of the holiest places in Islam and the rebuilding of a temple that is totally anathema to Christianity? Like, how did this happen? Well, there are a lot of ways it happened. The main way it happened is because no one in the United States noticed, because it's such a secular place, and as noted, we have eyes but can't see and ears and can't hear, but this has been going on a long time in public. So a correction, that doesn't appear to be the Western Wall, and there were no subtitles. You heard him say it through his translator. I laugh and quiver with joy when I think about the third temple being rebuilt. Now, this is the supposedly, maybe, who knows, Catholic president of an overwhelmingly Catholic country, South American country, wonderful country, Argentina, who got elected and was presented to American news consumers as a libertarian economist who was going to fix their debt problem and get rid of inflation and just make life better for Argentines. And there he is in Jerusalem saying that he's weeping with joy, thinking about the return, the rebuilding of the third temple. What the hell is that? You would think that would not even be on his to-do list. If you're running a country as complex and damaged as Argentina and as promising and great as Argentina, but like there's a lot of things you got to do in Argentina if you're running it, but you take time to fly to Israel and say the thing you really want in life is the rebuilding of the third temple? What is going on here? And why haven't we talked about this before? Say before we invaded Iran with troops who say out loud we're doing this to bring about the creation of the third temple. Why weren't the rest of us informed?
Yes, why we are not informed? Especially, why are we not informed about the real intention of Donald J. Trump in reading that specific passage 2 Chronicles 7:11-22, which is considered a landmark by the proponents of the Third Temple. Let's go back to Trump a second here, guys, because maybe, all these people out there who are still justifying the impossible when it comes to Trump should really understand that the signs are here, the signs of an anti-Christian presence. And they are not only, well, just listen to Trump.
The Lord appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, I have heard your prayer. And
so, Solomon, because this passage is dedicated to Solomon and him receiving from God the instructions on how to act regarding this temple.
Have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up heaven, that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray.
Yeah, sure. All the Christians will be there. Oh, wow. In reality, 2 Chronicles 7:11-22, which outlines God's covenant with Solomon and the consequences of disobedience, can be viewed in a different way in relation to the Sabbatean Frankist heresy. This Jewish mystical movement that has infiltrated every single other movement that we have now out of what my late friend Barry Camsh used to call Sabbatean Frankist Israel. Because this 2 Chronicles 7:11-22 is considered a foundational text that the movement's antinomian actions directly inverted. This is very important, guys, because understanding about the right interpretations changes everything. So the text serves as a strict warning that if the people turn aside or forsake God's statutes, the temple will be cast away and become a byword and an object of ridicule. Now, we know that the Sabbatean Frankists invert and violate traditional Torah law. So, believing antinomianism, a theology that believes that the holy could only be achieved by violating traditional Torah law. And 2 Chronicles 7:19-20 warns that abandoning God's laws to serve other gods will lead to destruction and being uprooted from the land. Frankism is there to propose something in a way that God will not be happy. But at the same time, while the text explicitly warns against other gods, this text is also uprooted in the belief that a reconstruction of the temple is fundamental for Israel to be able to live finally in peace at the fullest. No? I think that is pretty weird that only, what it was, a week or two ago, Tucker Carlson, who has now broken totally with Trump, says this, and then Trump chooses this specific passage in his Bible marathon.
Now, here's a piece of tape you may have seen and that I personally don't want to play since I know the guy and I like him, but it does make you wonder. So this is the current Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, former Fox News employee, nice man, very nice man. 2018 in Jerusalem, and as someone who knew him well, I can tell you, I had no idea that he had such evolved and specific and apparently very informed opinions on rebuilding the third temple, of all questions.
Because you see, rebuilding the temple and taking control of it, and then being able to do exactly the opposite of what God will want, is really what the Sabbatean Frankists want to put forward here. So it's important to understand also that we are in the year 2026, only a few months after the killing of Charlie Kirk, who himself would have been the only one to possibly stop the war with Iran, but at the same time was starting to learn about the Sabbatean Frankist heresy from his friend Candice Owen. Isn't that really a coincidence? Wow. And now Trump all holy there, eh?
Seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. Then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open and my ears attent to the prayer that...
This is a message that only, of course, these people within, the movement that is proponing this third temple can really fully understand. And Trump knows it. He knows it. He knows it. He knows it, and he's doing it deliberately, because he himself is viewing, this as a moment, in which God is, anointing him as some form of Messiah. Maybe it's not the ultimate Antichrist, but it's definitely a precursor. And then when we see Jared Kushner and what he's doing, going around all these important meetings with no security clearance, in the name of who and why? I don't really trust anybody, not even Tucker Carlson or anybody else, including my friend Alex Jones. But the thing is, when you see Trump openly criticizing the people who actually put him there, and when I see still a lot of people who don't understand what is happening, who still want to believe that Trump wants to help America. How can you believe Trump wants to help America, guys? When you go to the gas pump, or you go to the supermarket, this is not the golden age. This is the rip-off age, in which only the friends of Jeffrey Epstein are making money here, in which Palantir is constructing the apparatus that the Antichrist will require to control all of you. So continue supporting Trump means continuing to support the Antichrist and the people who, of course, want to rebuild the temple so they can finally, manifest everything in this end-time scenario. Bah.
It's not something they teach you in Sunday school in the Presbyterian Church. This is not something that people talk about at dinner in the United States. This is not something our Congress ever mentions, that the president ever talks about. This is considered so esoteric and weird and crypto-historical and religious and kind of culty and what's Chabad, and that no one ever mentions it. But here's Pete Hegseth, football player from Princeton,
So here somebody saying, I think Leo needs to dump the Tucker fact. I don't have a faction, guys. Let me make it very clear here once and for all. Leo Zagami, 2006, 2026, 20 years of Illuminati confessions. 20 years ago, Trump was maybe a reality show host. Tucker Carlson was simple journalist working at CNN, then at Fox, and being simply a spokesman for that regime that eventually now he is rejecting. I'm Leo Zagami. I've been here for a long time with my books, printed all over the world, and with my work that led me to be accused of espionage in Norway, to have to flee Italy, change my citizenship, fighting for the truth against the system. And I don't care if the system is the Pope or the President of the United States, because here we are simply giving you the facts, and the facts are we are in the end times. I've been saying it for 20 years, and I will continue to say it.
And in a way that suggests he's thought a lot about it. This is 2018.
Today, Jennifer and I and others had a chance to go see the Western Wall of the Temple Mount, the Western Wall tunnels, so much of the old city. And as you stand there, you can't help but behold the miracle before you.
Okay, perfect. You know who this guy is? But do you know that 20 years ago, when I started Illuminati Confessions, one of my first testimonies was about me as a member of the P2 Lodge from Monte Carlo being invited under the Temple Mount to celebrate a satanic mass with High Priestess Michela Mercenaro, who used to be, he had both sexes, used to be a priest working in the Vatican archives, and then became instead a consultant for the police against sex. And then they finally discovered that she was a high priestess in a satanic cult, and that was the end of her career. But I had been denouncing her for years. Anyway, when I was still within the Monte Carlo Lodge, I got invited because the P2 Lodge was working with Shin Bet, was working with Mossad, and was working with the Sabbatean Frankists. Do you know, my friends, that in the United Grand Lodge of England headquarters, there is a mosaic which they officially tell you, oh no, it's Art Deco. No, that mosaic is made out of pieces that were illegally brought from Israel and from the Temple Mount. So the Freemasons could, make even more relevant their temple, because you know that Freemasonry, of course, gives a special role in their allegory to the Temple of Solomon. I'm not denying that Trump does whatever Israel does, because Israel, like I explained here, is in the hands of the Sabbatean Frankists. So maybe you need to read this book or the others I wrote. There is here a book which explains also British Israelism, which is another thing which I explain in this book, in which I also explain the roots of Christian Zionism, which are in Puritanism. In Christian Puritanism, Zionism is not born among the Jews. It was born first among the Christians, just so you know. And this book here, which comes from British Israelism, which I like to show because it's an old book from the 19th century, this book is the attempt that they made to merge the Freemasons, who wanted to merge the British Freemasons, their own country, claiming they were the lost tribes of Israel. Imagine that. Imagine that.
It got me thinking about another miracle that I hope all of you don't see too far away. Because 1917 was a miracle, 1948 was a miracle, 1967 was a miracle, 2017, the declaration of Jerusalem as the capital was a miracle, and there's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible.
So let me understand. This guy is or is not the head of the Department of War? Okay. Is he? I know he's the guy who, instead of reading from a classic Ezekiel passage, prefers to read the Quentin Tarantino version, as we showed the last time. But guys, remember that the proponents of the establishment of the Third Temple are also within Freemasonry and the Illuminati. I've been discussing that for a long time in my books, if you read them. People like Giuliano Di Bernardo, who after becoming Grand Master of the Regular Lodge of Italy, went also under the Temple Mount in those tunnels where they often celebrate rituals, to establish a specific lodge that will be dedicated to reestablishing the Fair Temple. And the Marquis of Northampton, who used to be the Deputy Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England, is also involved. And who was the best friend of Giuliano Di Bernardo, who is still the acting Grand Master of the Illuminati in Italy? Foxman, the former head of the Anti-Defamation League, that, by the way, was created by B'nai B'rith, just like AIPAC. But, guys, while I talk about the people behind AIPAC, who are B'nai B'rith, most people like Tucker or Candice or others are only scratching the surface and talk about AIPAC like the ultimate evil. No, there is evil behind evil. Remember that.
I don't know how it would happen. You don't know how it would happen, but I know that it could happen.
What is that? That's the Secretary of War right now, overseeing the war with Iran that people fighting it are starting to say actually is about rebuilding this third temple. It's the same man. Okay, this is the point where you begin to think.
Yeah, no, but I also think of the inconsistencies in the eschatological interpretation here, because how is possible that the majority of evangelicals out there, who know very well that the Fair Temple will be rebuilt thanks to the Antichrist, are not seeing that Trump is doing the work of the Antichrist?
Made in this place.
Yes, remember that. Made in this place. Then we have, maybe people don't know that, of course, before the destruction of the temple, there were some weird things that happened. The first century Roman Jewish historian Flavius Josephus described a series of supernatural, atmospheric, and aerial phenomena in his book, The Jewish War. This phenomena that, of course, now we will call UFO phenomena, UFO sightings, occurred before the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD. And Flavius Josephus is a serious guy. He described a stunning event at one point, the chariots in the sky and armed battalions that were seen rushing through the clouds, maneuvering in the air above the city. Josephus is historian. Flavius Josephus is a historian, Jewish historian, who was present during the war that ultimately saw the destruction of the temple. He viewed it as a supernatural omen, this series of events. Today we might, but Josephus noted that the miserable people and seditious within the city, the people who brought themselves the destruction upon them, leading to the final destruction of the temple, that at the end occurred against Tito's wishes. So there is also very clear indication that the destruction of this temple, which I repeat, was also foreseen by Jesus. Jesus sees the possibility of an imminent destruction, and it's described in Mark 13:1-2. It's described in Mark 13:34. with the words, "Look, teacher, what wonderful stones and what wonderful buildings." And Jesus says, "Do you see these great buildings? There will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." And so Jesus is foretelling us the destruction of the temple. He has also warned his followers to be on guard, because they will be arrested, they will be tortured, they will be persecuted. Today, we have a president who claims to be a Christian and has nothing to do with Christianity. He's actually partaking in the Sabbatean Frankist heresy, and he is working for the Antichrist. He's now going to receive King Charles, who himself is part of British Israelism. They claim the Davidic line was involved even at one point with the, when they wanted to push that kind of lie. But the truth is that the FBI wanted to actually arrest the brother of King Charles. The truth is coming out now. The truth that the FBI didn't want to only interrogate former Prince Andrew, they want to arrest him. And so King Charles is coming here simply to return the favor that his brother is not getting arrested by the FBI, because he is involved with the Sabbatean Frankist Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein in this terrible thing, in the terrible series of events that went on for decades, which saw thousands of young girls victimized by these monsters. And we will continue to fight against the New World Order, the Illuminati, the corrupt Freemasons that joined them, and we will continue in our battle. 20 years of Illuminati confessions. 20 years ago, without all these people, there was only a bunch of truth tellers. I can count them on one hand. It was me, Alex Jones, David Icke. And amongst them, at one point, there was this guy called David Wilcock, who decided to take his life. Now, everybody is coming up with all kinds of theories regarding his suicide. But guys, his last show, he was pretty unhinged on his last show. Check him out. Pathway to Peace. The image.
All right, David, wait a minute. Just wait a frickin' minute. You mean to tell me that the flippin' president of the United States of America is going to go out on camera, David, and he's going to dress himself up as Jesus flippin' Christ in a red robe? But he's going to say, well, I was a doctor.
Now, I remember when I came here in 2019, and I went to Contact in the Desert because it was close by to where I was staying here in Palm Springs. And the guy didn't even have the courage to come and talk to me, because a few years earlier, he'd been bad-mouthing me with Benjamin Fulford. And we might be discussing that on Saturday, because, of course, we don't have enough time today. However, to me, Gaia is the ultimate grifter organization, just as much as anybody that has worked in it. And David Wilcock passing is, of course, sad because it represents the failures of the New Age movement, a movement which is born out of satanic values, that doesn't have any God, that claims, to want to embrace some kind of cosmic Christ feeling. What is this bullshit? Maybe he finally realized that his entire story and history of lying was maybe catching up with him. He claimed to be the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. He called me once. It was the year 2010 or 2011. And I gave him, because, I'm a good guy. He started to talk to me about being this and that. And I was, okay, I would like to be able to get in contact with Benjamin Fulford. I said, no problem. I give you Fulford's phone number. You can connect with him. And then after, they were both bad-mouthing me after I actually put them in contact with each other. He fought for that whole space program bullshit with that Corey Gold guy, which now is, of course, saddened by the death of his friend. But guys, the New Age movement sucks, and there is many people like this who are led astray, who are living basically in a spiritual desert, and who don't have the possibility of really encountering God. When I arrived in Palm Springs in 2019 and I went to Continent in the Desert, they were telling me, what do you think of the white hats? And then I started to understand that David Wilcock had embraced all that QAnon psyop bullshit. And I was like, okay, guys, yeah, I was somebody who, as you know, was the president of Italians for Trump. I supported Trump after Alex Jones came down to me in Rome, and we met for the first time here in 2015. But I never supported the psyop of QAnon, which I have publicly denounced in volume 7 of my Confessions, which I highly suggest you read. So, I repeat, I'm sorry, but I'm also shocked to see people like the Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot saying that he's still alive and that he staged his death. I mean, this woman is insane. These people are insane. I mean, leave the guy alone. The guy is dead. No. I was shocked when I saw this Cassidy saying, "Oh, I received messages from psychics that he's still alive." Messages from psychics that he's still alive. What? These people are insane. They are completely out of it.
Yeah. And how it maybe relates also to the Native Americans in the area. There's something with that also, because my father had a very direct relationship with Native Americans.
Yeah, whatever. But I mean, when she said that, okay, the guy might have been a drifter, might have been a con man. He was definitely dishonest. His claims were outlandish. But he's dead. He killed himself.
Mentions are disappearing. Mm-hmm. You're going into one. So the onion is different at every level. You've heard us say that. You've heard Richard.
The onion. Yeah, what?
Or if he's still alive. But the thing.
If he's still alive? No, he's dead.
Another David that they put out in public, and that had to have like these scientists that are disappearing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is, we don't know if it's what we call a deep fake. If there were people there in person that's less likely to be a deep fake.
Oh, fuck off. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, I can't hear this bullshit. A bit of respect for the dead, at least. Cassidy is the one that accused me of being a CIA agent and then had the courage to call me 3 or 4 years ago and say, do you want to come on Project Camelot again? I said, well, you put a disclaimer on your website that I'm not a CIA agent, and maybe I will accept the interview offer. These people are all a bunch of scammers and drifters, and people follow them. Millions of people follow them. And I was honest when I gave my interview with Project Camelot 20 years ago. And I suffered consequences for it. I was arrested for espionage soon after. These people are charlatans, surrounded by this new age cult. Let's pray for them. Guys, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you to Daniel Estes and Larry Frascella for making this extra show possible. If you want more extra shows, of course, you can donate at GoFundMe or at Cash App. You can do it both anonymously, or you can do it publicly, and of course have your name listed amongst the sponsors. Also, support me purchasing the books, which are also another way of financing these transmissions. In any case, I'm also preparing a new book that is going to be out before the end of May, God permitting. And take care, all of you guys. Is important when it comes down to the mental health issue that might have surrounded somebody like David Wilcock, to always, of course, keep an understanding that certain people might be in a crisis, even when they apparently, like David, looked kind of normal. Even if when you see through his post and you see through his last show, then maybe his closer friends should have been activated in maybe getting closer to him. Would have probably avoided the mess. It reminds me of another similar accident that happened many years ago with that guy that wrote that book that let me remember what was his name, William Cooper. William Cooper, who wrote the book Behold a Pale Horse, was a former U.S. Naval intelligence officer who died also in a very weird way. I remember it was always very confused, the scene of his death, because how he died was never really fully explained. He was, though, shot and killed on November 6, 2001 by the sheriff's deputies. In this case, instead, it seems like with David Wilcock, he killed himself, which is equally bad and dramatic. So let's pray for both of them and take care, my friends. I see you on Saturday for another episode of the Leo Zagami Show.
Secret society, trying to keep it
Heard your prayer and have chosen this place for myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up heaven, that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face.
Everybody, check out this amazing video.
from heaven and will forgive their sins. Heal their land. Now my eyes shall be opened and my ears attent to the prayer that is made in this place.
What are we really fighting for? We're fighting for the right of the Jewish people to exist, be Jewish, practice their religion, and be free. And one day our true leader will come and we'll be united as a whole Jewish nation.